Remember when Mario and Sonic first competed in the Olympics back in 2007? Or how about when Snake decided it was showtime in Smash Brawl? Those were the kinds of crossovers that everyone has been asking for. There were some more quirky crossovers like Link and Soul Calibur 2, but overall, they were generally expected. But then came E3 2017, and we were hit with probably the most random crossover nobody has ever asked for. But it happened. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, a Fire Emblem-esque tactical RPG that served as a crossover between the Super Mario and Rabbids franchises. You basically start off with this kid who crafts all sorts of tech, including this special AR headset that pretty much turns whatever you see into reality. This kid also happens to be a super big fan of Mario, judging by how their entire room was laid out and how they kept singing the Mario song. The kid leaves the room and suddenly the rabbits appear through their washing machine time machine and start all kinds of trouble. One of the rabbits puts on that headset and starts all sorts of trouble, accidentally overloading the time machine, which just so happens to bring the rabbits into the Mario world, just because a Mario poster and a few toys from the room got transported into this time machine. From there on, for the amount of chaos and nonsense flying around, the story is actually pretty good. It basically plays the perfect scenario of what would happen to the Mushroom Kingdom if Rabbids were to invade, and I think the character interactions fit naturally into the story, with a lot of comedy sprinkled throughout. For the lack of voice dialogue, this feels just like what you would get in a Minions movie or a Despicable Me movie, where pretty much most of the plot revolves around facial expressions and character-to-character interactions. The game just works so well to explain the story without having to overcomplicate stuff, and you really don't need much background knowledge of either Mario or the Rabbids. There was also a side story featuring Donkey Kong in the DLC, which seems to have taken place at the same time as the main story, and it's more or less an elaborate side quest for Rabbid Peach to try and return back to the main world after being sucked into yet another world. But that's a whole different story, and it's pretty self-explanatory once you play it. Just imagine an easier, innovative, and more forgiving version of Fire Emblem. That's pretty much what this game is, with some added exploration and puzzle solving in between. You choose your party, you choose your weapons, and you choose to battle over a tiled, turn-based combat system. The moment I started this game, I instantly knew how to play it because of how simple the mechanics were. It's really just the strategy that's the important part, but generally speaking, it's not that difficult. Exploration is another interesting part. Even though you're pretty much stuck on a linear path throughout most of the game, it does very well to make the environment more immersive by having all sorts of random viewpoints that you can look at and a bunch of secrets hidden all over the place. It sorta counts as an open world if you consider how few loading screens there actually are, but you're still stuck in that one pathway to follow through. Personally, I think this balance makes this game a lot more story-driven than one would expect, and I certainly don't mind considering the story is actually engaging. It also makes the game feel shorter than it actually is, because it doesn't feel like you're constantly sitting through a multitude of battles over and over again. The music in this game was composed by Grant Kirkhope, whom some of you may recognize for some of the more famous soundtracks back in the days of the N64, particularly with the Rare games. Surprisingly, this is the first Rabbids game and the first Mario game he's actually composed music for, but he has certainly done a really good job. Much of the soundtrack is based off of variations of Mario and Donkey Kong themes, with a mix of a lot of goofy and chaotic bits that show off the nature of the Rabbids, topped off with a familiar vibe of Grant Kirkhope. The rest of the music throughout this game might sound a bit like that generic 3D cartoon music you'll find in any movies or kids games, but you'll hear stuff like this. And you'll be breaking out that cheeky smile. I don't know what else to say. It's plain old good music to listen to, and even though it's probably more generic than memorable, it's probably one of the more impressive ones given the weird balance between Mario and Rabbids. The same goes for aesthetics and art style. It's bright, it's colorful, it's a blend of realism and cartoon. It's your typical 3D animation. It sure does make this one look like one of the best looking games on the Switch, though I think there are many others that look just as good. So overall, what do I have to say about this game? A tier? It's certainly the weirdest crossover, aside from all the stuff that we've seen in Smash Ultimate, but I think it's been around long enough to feel considerably normal. Normal enough that we're actually getting a sequel to this. Hint, hint.